So the RISE Challenge is a new thing. Maybe things, if you've been around a while, you might have done something similar to this as a member of IAFSM. But RISE Challenge is pretty unique, and especially in this time, way of coming alongside educators for a fun, student-led and oriented way of learning about very important issues and what they can do to affect them in their own communities. So it's right up our alley as floodplain professionals and flood mitigation professionals. So it's a great opportunity for us to get involved, and I'm really excited to have the opportunity. It just, was one of those things that we got a call and said, hey, we're doing this. You want to join? And so, like you, we're here to learn more about that. I want to introduce Alyssa McConkey, right? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And Alyssa is with EarthForce, and EarthForce designed much of the curriculum and the process and everything like that. They're based out in Colorado, around Denver area.
Nationwide, but our headquarters are here, yes.
Right. So they've got a long track record, about 25, 30 years of this.
25.
25 years of this.
And
they know what they're doing, and it's a well-organized curriculum. Locally, within the state of Illinois, the Environmental Education Association in Illinois is represented by Abby Enlund, and they've also been co-laboring with educators in Illinois for, what is it, you guys are around 10 to 15 years, if I remember right.
1972.
Holy smokes.
We were founded in 1972, so it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So Abby's going to lead off and get into the meat and potatoes of what this is all about and how we can get involved.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, Brian. So welcome, everybody. My name is Abby Enlund. I'm the Executive Director for the Environmental Ed Association of Illinois. We are the statewide professional development provider for both formal and non-formal educators when it comes to all things environmental education. We're the state host for national curriculum programs such as Project Learning Tree and Project Wild. Just this year, we took on the North American Association for Environmental Education's Guidelines for Excellence program to bring best practice modules to educators throughout the state that have been populated by the National Environmental Education Association, as well as taking on a facilitator network for EarthForce and RISE Challenge Illinois. And the reason that we are so excited to be bringing RISE Challenge Illinois to educators and students in this state is because for a long time, in hosting programs like Project Learning Tree and Project Wild that do an incredible job of bringing hands-on environmental education information to students, they really focus on that knowledge and awareness and appreciation, which are sort of those first 3 steps in becoming environmentally literate, right? We have to know the environment is there, we have to understand its role and the way that we're connected to it, and we have to appreciate the things that it provides for us. That next step is kind of the investigation part. And then finally, that civic action, caring enough to actually do something when you see a problem. And so far in environmental education, there's just not been a ton of programs that sort of bring us full circle all the way to that civic action component. And because of that, we're seeing whole generations, my generation included, of citizens that really love the outdoors, and they spend a huge amount of money and time to vacation and get access, and they know that there are issues, but they don't have the skills or the passion or the interest in taking it to that level of actually doing something about those issues. And this program, RISE Challenge Illinois, really addresses that. It gives students the confidence and the skills to understand that their voice and the small actions that they can take within their own communities really have the ability to make an incredible impact. Our partnering with both EarthForce and FEMA on the topic specifically of flooding and natural disasters could have an extensive, incredible impact for communities across Illinois to really understand how to be prepared for these situations and what kind of work we can do ahead of time to lessen the impact on that those natural disasters have on our communities. We think this concept of flooding, we know hits home to so many young people across our state. So why not capture that and really make sure that students understand this issue and have the skills to take action and do something about it. So we're super excited to be bringing this program to Illinois. We had no idea when EarthForce and FEMA and EEAI got together last spring, or last winter, I guess, that we would be facing an international pandemic and trying to launch a brand new program in what has become the most challenging time of our lifetimes. But we're doing it and we're pushing forward. And the word pivot is what I keep saying to myself and my children and the educators that I work with, is we just have to pivot. We have to figure out a new way to do that. And so we're really embracing that. And what's interesting because of COVID is there's been a real shift, right, in the way we teach and the way we learn and the way we network and connect with people. And there's part of it, obviously I'm excited to go back to in-person trainings and an in-person state conference, hopefully in 2022. But there's a part of this virtual learning dynamic that I really hope we don't lose, because the accessibility and the inclusivity that we can have and the audiences that we can reach as a statewide organization through events like this and having a virtual summit for the students this spring, I think can really have an incredible impact. So while we're not, really excited about everything being virtual, we are really excited that it is going to open up the door, hopefully, to a lot more students and educators to be able to be involved. So if anyone has any questions for me, I'll circle back on the end to talk more about specifically the volunteer roles, but I'm going to let Alyssa dive in to exactly what EarthForce is and the challenge itself and give more details around that. But we are the boots on the ground or the boots in the virtual world, so to speak.
Illinois boots.
So if you ever have any local questions, I'm going to throw my email up in the chat box at some point later, along with the website and everything, so you can find all of that information. But with that, I will turn it over to Alyssa.
I don't think I really have to say anything else. I think that was outstanding. Thank you so much. So my name is Alyssa McConkey, and I'm program manager with EarthForce. Our organization, as Brian said very eloquently, thank you, in our introduction, has been around for nearly 25 years and is focused on engaging young people in civic action around environmental issues. So where Abby talked about that whole knowledge and all of that, we really push on the action piece. And so our organization is involved in many programs across the country, but we are really proud of the RISE Challenge. And we'll get into that specifically here in just a moment. But we see this as aligning really well with our values of engaging in civic action, because young people get to explore the topics of natural hazards in their community, and then they get to do something about it. And so as we've worked with FEMA the last few years in Colorado, we realized this is really great and this is an opportunity we want to take out to others. And so we have now expanded that. So here we are in Illinois, and we'll dig into that in just a moment. If you have any questions about EarthForce or want to dig into the broader work we do, you can learn more at earthforce.org. Pretty basic. And it's a great resource for educators that are trying to engage young people in civic action and democratic decision making. So check that out. We've got some good stuff there. But without any further ado, I am going to share my screen so that we can dive into RISE. And if I can get a thumbs up so that you can see my screen. Awesome. So RISE Challenge, thank you. So the RISE challenge, you can read here. I'm going to have you read some of the stuff to yourself because I just really despise when people just read off of slides. But basically, RISE stands for Resilience, Innovation, Sustainability, and the Environment. Sustainability for the environment. So you get a little sense of what RISE is all about. And this program started in Northern Colorado. Okay, so it's been here for, I'm in Northern Colorado right now, and it's been here for the last few years. And as I mentioned, we noticed that it was really successful. And so we've worked with our partners in FEMA, and as you'll see in a moment, the ASFPM Foundation, to get this program growing and expanding. So we've expanded it within Colorado, and this year we're also launching it in Montana, specifically in the Helena, Missoula area, and then in Illinois. There is a link here that has, but it's more for, it's just got kind of the schools that are interested in engaging, but you get the idea. So here's a visual, because I'm a visual person too. Like, how do all of these people, organizations, and programs play together? So you can see RISE Challenge at the top. And then we have EarthForce and our wonderful friends at EEAI that are partnering on the programming piece of RISE. Okay, and then our funding and support come from FEMA and the ASFPM Foundation. And that's kind of, we got introduced to you all through our friends at ASFPM. And so thank you to anyone who's on that board. So together we bring the RISE Challenge to educators and students in Illinois. And you can see the RISE Challenge has kind of 3 parts. So we do like some educator preparation. Students and educators do research around the topics, and then they do a proposal, a way to solve the issues that they have discovered. And then they do a summit presentation where they can earn prize money and implementation funds, and then they implement their project. And so how does EarthForce fit into that? So our civic action model, it's actually called the community action and problem solving process, aligns really well with this. And so it's kind of a structured way for educators to walk their students through the RISE Challenge and promote that democratic decision making and have a lot of like scaffolds and skill building to get to action. So that's kind of how everything fits together. The goals of RISE in the most general way are to improve community engagement and to improve student learning. So who's involved? What I love about this work and about my role and about RISE is that we engage so many different people in this program. So we have educators that are learning these processes, they're interacting. We have youth who are becoming civic actors. They're learning to take action in their community. They're learning about issues like flooding and what they can do about it. We have their families who are by default sort of brought into the fold through that. We're engaging Native American tribal communities. We have the ASFPM Foundation and local floodplain managers and local businesses and nonprofits too. So it's a wide net that we cast. So the different ways that folks are involved, as we mentioned, classrooms take action on local mitigation issues. We have parents and students that are parents and our guardians that are really engaged through the young people that are doing this work. Students are learning how to work with local stakeholders, those people in power, and folks who can help them learn more, like local floodplain managers, like emergency, Katie, it's like the emergency managers of an area. That was simple, not as hard as I made it. And all the other stakeholders that are engaged, and young people really develop a lot of skills around talking to these adults and like finding their place of power to ask for something to be different and to take action on some of the issues that they find. And then our summit really engages the entire community around these issues of natural hazards. It brings them to the fore, they're talked about and discussed, students talk about ways to solve them. So it's a really great opportunity to engage folks around natural hazards. So what are we seeing from this? Why is this important? So if you could just take a minute, it'll mean more if you could just read this to yourselves and just get a sense of some of our, what our evaluations have told us, that students are really getting something from this experience. And we have a couple quotes at the bottom too. I really love that young people feel important. And we see this throughout RISE and throughout all of the EarthForce projects that we do, is when we ask young people to engage with their community around solving problems, and they understand them and they talk to adults and they share their information, that they are empowered. And those are the skills that we're building so that we can help young people feel and be ready to be environmentally engaged citizens, right? To participate in that civic network and to make change. So I always love everything I do with students and get to talk to them when they say, like, I had responsibility, like this adult listened to me when I talk, and I like learned this and I learned that. So you can see it's like there's real impact coming from that, and students are really growing from this experience. Oh, what did I do? Quit working. All right, let's see if this works. This is our this is a video from the winning project from 2019. This is in Rocky Mountain. As we said, this was formerly just in northern Colorado. So this group is from Estes Park Middle School. Let me take a moment here. Adam reminded me to pause and tell you the group of students that EarthForce generally works with, and therefore RISE works with as well, is really the like 5th to 10th grade, 10 to 14, and then fringes beyond that as well. The reason we focus on that age at EarthForce is because research shows us, and if anyone's interested, I'm happy to share. I love sharing all of our research documents and such, that if young people are engaged in civic decision making in those key years, that sort of like 9 to 15, 10 to 14 age range, that they are much more likely to be engaged citizens in the future. So it's really like the time where they develop their civic muscles, and then they feel comfortable moving forward and using those. So that's why we focus on that age range as EarthForce, and that's why then sort of by default, we have fallen into this space in RISE. We have a little bit of flexibility with that, but generally the like 5th to 10th grade or so is where we talk about middle school, but we got a little movement on the edges of that. So now back to Estes Park Middle School. So these young people were the winners of what used to be, this was formerly the RISE Challenge, was the Rocky Mountain Environmental Hazards Challenge, which RISE is so much better, right? Talk about mouthfuls of words of things, just like bleh. So now RISE Colorado. And so these are the winners. Hopefully this will play. If not, I might have to exit out, but it worked earlier. So let's see.
Hi, my name is Carla, and I'm a 6th grade student at Estes Park Middle School. I'm going to talk about a project some of my classmates and I have been working on this year. It's about protecting Estes Park, Colorado from wildfires and floods. Estes Park is a small town near Rocky Mountain National Park, so we get a lot of visitors from all over the world. Our town is surrounded by the national park and wilderness areas. Wildfires are always a concern, and our forests provide plenty of wildfire fuel. Although we get snowmelt each year, we are a drier area because we are on the eastern slope of the Continental Divide. The terrain here overall is rocky and dry. This project was not required for a class, but something we could do if we wanted. We've gotten a lot of help and have learned so much. For our project, we looked at environmental issues that could affect us here in Estes Park and in the national park. To decide on a topic, we brainstormed environmental issues that could affect us here in Estes Park. We then voted on a topic. We thought that wildfires was the biggest concern. Flooding was the second biggest concern. In this project, we have learned that wildfires and flooding are often connected issues. For example, the Thomas Fire in California was followed by flash flooding. In Colorado, following the High Park Fire in 2012, the next year we had flooding across the Front Range. After deciding on wildfire prevention as a topic, we tried to come up with solutions to this issue. We have met with firefighters, taken field trips around town to look at wildfire hazards, researched fire safety programs, and have interviewed an insurance agent and realtor. One of our solutions to this problem is to promote a national fire safety program called FireWise USA. FireWise USA gives homeowners ideas to protect their houses from wildfires. For example, there are different mitigation zones based on how wildfires spread. On our field trips around town, we looked at houses to see if they were FireWise or not. Here's a picture of a typical house in Estes Park. As you can see, there are a lot of trees close to the house. FireWise USA recommends that trees are more sparse and further away from a house. We would encourage the homeowner to cut some of the branches to thin the trees. Another idea for this homeowner is to put some rocks or stones within 5 feet of the house and prevent fire from moving towards the house. Adding stones or rocks to the bottom of a house also can prevent fires from moving up. To learn about FireWise USA, we have built 2 model homes, one showing a FireWise property and the other shows a non-FireWise property. With the help of some firefighters, we are going to set these models on fire to hopefully show why using FireUSA strategies can help homeowners protect their homes from wildfires. This summer, we will work with the Estes Valley Fire Protection District to help homeowners be more firewise. The fire department has interns who can visit homes at their request and give firewise suggestions. Then, depending on the task, some middle school and high school students will volunteer their time this summer to help people clean up their properties in order to become more firewise. We are hoping that our project goes beyond the summer. We think we can get a long-term student involvement. We believe that if our project catches on, we may just someday save our homes from being burned in a wildfire. We have learned through this project that preparing for natural disasters like flooding or wildfires takes a whole community working together. As students, we know that if we start now, we can make longer-lasting changes. Thank you.
All right. So, amazing young people. Yeah, thank you. I feel the same way every time I get to hear from them. And as you all know, there's a lot of different environmental hazards that we face in our communities. And here in Colorado specifically, that, as they mentioned, the fire and the flooding are so directly connected. This year we had the largest fire in Colorado history right outside my hometown. It skirted the edges and a lot of my friends had to evacuate. And there is a lot of worry about floods next year, right? So those are 2 of our really connected natural hazards here. And I know in Illinois, just flooding in general is really big, even like stormwater and all, like the city flooding and all of that. So the hazards might look a little different in each place. But they are often connected, and these are all local projects. So it's another big piece of the work we do is getting young people to engage in local issues, right? Things that are meaningful in their community. So I'm going to pass it over to Abby now, because you're all just on the edge of your seat wondering, how can I get involved in this? It sounds amazing. I can't wait to be part of it. So Abby's going to tell you how.
Excellent. Thank you, Alyssa. And we're so excited. We can't wait to have videos like that of Illinois students and have examples of projects that have taken place here in Illinois. It's amazing to have those stories from over there, from Colorado, but we look forward to when we have success stories here. So how can you all be involved? Well, educators are really good at working with students, but they're not flood and natural disaster experts, and most of them probably don't know anything about it. And we're already facing this, well, we don't teach, we don't live on a river, so this doesn't pertain to us kind of statements. And we know that that's not true, right? That everywhere can be impacted by flooding or has an impact on our waterway systems in some way. But your involvement can really help to kind of bridge that gap, to enable educators to have the confidence to move forward in this challenge, because they can lean on experts in their community to be able to help guide those questions and help guide their research. And if they don't know how to answer a student's question, they can come to an expert to get direction for where to go to find those answers. So there's lots of different levels of involvement that we are really looking for, from very simple tasks of sharing a Facebook post, or if you know an educator that already works with students in some way, sharing the RISE challenge with them and saying, hey, this is a cool project you could get involved with, to much more extensive partnerships with educators in your local area. If you know an educator that maybe leads a science club or works with a Boy Scout or Girl Scout troop or an after-school program that you think they would be a good fit, consider partnering with them on hosting this challenge and kind of being their go-to expert. That could be meeting with their students virtually right now every once in a while to kind of help guide their research or their investigation. It could mean helping with an implementation of their project and kind of guiding their development of their solution. Obviously, this is all student driven. So the big thing to keep in mind, the big thing to remember, is that we're not trying to come in and say, well, this is how you're going to solve the storm water drainage problem outside your school. We want them to figure out, one, that that's the issue in their local community, and two, come up with their own solutions or their own ideas of how they can potentially make an impact. We're just here to say, yeah, that's really interesting, but have you thought about this? Or asking those guiding questions that can lead them to the right answers, to the right research, to enable, kind of help them with that investigation. So like I said, lots of different ways to be involved, and you can see on the screen there's sort of a schedule. Right now, we're still kind of in recruitment. On December 15th, we're hosting a quick little introduction to RISE Challenge webinar that we're inviting educators to attend, to kind of give them a rundown of the timeline and the deliverables and all of those things. And then our summit is scheduled for April 28th. So if you are interested in kind of seeing how this all plays out on the end side of it, we would love to have your involvement as experts in the summit. We will need people that know this world, that know these projects and these solutions and these problems really in-depthly, to be able to act as judges for these proposals. Each team will submit a written proposal prior to the summit. That's how they get accepted to present at the summit. So we'll have judges that will read those proposals, kind of flesh out those projects with those educators, maybe provide some feedback to the students on their implementation plans, and give them an overall score on that proposal. And then we'll have judges that actually attend the summit and judge the students' oral presentations at the summit. Now, every proposal that is accepted to present at the summit gets the funding to be able to implement their program, which is huge. This is amazing funds coming from FEMA that we are so grateful and thankful for, because this is where we're going to really see the impact. And again, this is where we build that confidence in those students. They came up with these ideas, and they're actually getting the money to see that idea through. And so we'll need those volunteers that can kind of be the sounding board. If they have issues with the implementation or they have questions, who can they go to in their local community to ask those questions to? So again, there's a wide variety of ways that you can get involved, from a few minutes of your time to a much more larger commitment or partnership. It just all depends on your comfort level, your capacity to give your time, and your interest as well. So again, that flyer is on our RISE Challenge website, and the interest form is on, and it looks like we have got it linked in the chat box already. So that interest form is on there, and there's all kinds of different, right there on the interest form, you can indicate kind of your level, which area you're most interested, if it's being a classroom expert or working with us on the summit or being a judge, and all of those pieces, the rubrics and everything for how to be a judge and how to evaluate these students' ideas is all figured out for you. So you don't have to do any of that legwork. Thank you, EarthForce, for already doing all of that for us. So it's all there. And again, if you have any questions about being involved or how to be involved, feel free to reach out to me at any point. We're just super excited that you guys welcomed us into your space and gave us this time to share this challenge with you.
So we've got lots of time now for questions, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
Lorena, you said you'd be interested in that research. What research were you thinking of? And did we already post a link from that, or did you? So anyhow, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying the research about the age at which students are more susceptible, I guess, to receiving the information, but also being later on engaged in civic engagements.
Yep, I'd be happy. I put my email in the chat. If you want to send me a message from the best email to reach you, I'll go ahead and send that, those PDFs or links to those. Additionally, another cool research space that really revolves around like what we're doing here and kind of that community building resilience as a community beyond just what students are doing is that their students' impact on their families at this point in their life and how they're like passion about something, their knowledge about these natural hazards and stuff sort of infiltrates into their families and such as well. So I'd be happy to share that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also, I was wondering, so we have the Silver Jackets team. I don't know if you were familiar with it. So we actually just, through one of the FPMS proposals, we're also doing something that seems similar maybe with students. And I think for me, this is the first time that I've seen one of our proposals that's like this. But we're doing the proposal that we decided on was to work with the school, and I'm trying to like jog my memory. I was looking for the proposal, but I finally pulled it up, and it's the Shawnee School District number 84 in Union County, I believe. And so we'll be working with them because if you know Paul Osmond, he's the one that brought this up and really wanted to work with them to develop an action plan, because apparently there was a lot of interest and need from the school to develop one. So just throwing that out there, I think the team would also be a really good pool of individuals that could be judges or support in some way. And if there's any way to maybe work together.
Pollinate.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So let me speak to that real quick. So we just had a conversation with the folks in Montana around their Silver Jacket crew. Basically, bottom line is yes to like somehow connecting all of this. And one particular way, what you just alluded to, is that we could, whatever proposal they come up with, they can submit that to RISE as well. And so that would be totally fine. We can share with you all, or like online, you can find on EEAI's website, and I think we put it in the chat, the RISE Challenge Illinois is like information about what the proposals look like what we want, the proposal guide, like the kind of information we're looking for in a proposal. But I think Paul mentioned that early on, and I think that's a great idea to like get those folks engaged in this. And then potentially there's room for connecting, like in Montana, they are going to send RISE out to they have like a education arm in with the Silver Jackets, or folks who are doing flooding outreach somehow. And then all of those, it's like different organizations coming together around. I don't know if it's different in every state. I was still trying to grasp what it was the last conversation, but there were people in there that might be interested in volunteering in a different way, or connecting those educators or those students they're working with to RISE in order to share their applications or their proposals and such. So yes, let's talk. We might have to figure out some like specifics around that, but I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
To engage the Silver Jackets.
And actually, Lorena, we were aware of that and have had some conversation about that when we've been talking about RISE Challenge, that particular group. I don't know if those connections have been started at all with what we've done right now, and maybe really what is needed is a facilitator to make that connection. And it kind of leads into a question that I'd like to ask, a practical question of how do we want to go about matchmaking? How do we, should IFSM collect a list of resources? You come to us, or do you want to, do we have people say, hey, I'm interested in, this is the kind of area that I'm interested in, or they maybe bring a group along with them too. How do you guys want to approach
Abby,
it?
you want to take that?
Yeah, so we have a couple different educators that have kind of already said, yes, we're super interested, sort of committed, right? I mean, it's 2020, so really, is anybody fully committed to anything at this point? We're hoping that they are, but again, it is such as life. So we have some educators that have kind of said, yes, we're all in. And so we know the communities that they live and work in. So we can certainly offer you that information to see if there are experts in those specific counties or towns that would be willing to step up and kind of, be a contact. So we could share that information with those teachers directly, and then they can reach out and kind of, make that contact as needed. So we can go that direction for sure. If you have volunteers that are like, oh my gosh, I love this, I really want to be involved, I want to, if they're really passionate about it, please send that information to me, because then I can use that as kind of almost an advertising tool to teachers in that community to say, hey, here's this challenge and here's this expert that really wants to get involved and help you. So you've got all the tools you need to jump right in and take this on. So we can kind of go at it from both angles, both sides.
Yep, and then we have the volunteer interest form. I'm going to put that back in the chat too. If as an individual you are interested, or you could share this maybe within your network and say, hey, here's this webinar that we went to, here's some information on it, here's the way to get involved if you're interested. It allows, you could send that to educators too. It's kind of an all over interest. Like, I'm interested in RISE, and then you can kind of identify the different ways. Or maybe you just are like, I'm interested, but I want more information. That would be a fine place to do that too.
So that's a web form that will gather the information and retain it for your use.
Yes.
It will. Yep, it's a Google form.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
And I have to give a big shout out to FEMA, because they are engaging, they're working to find emergency managers in these different areas too, to be kind of contact support for educators. And so, we're really, I think sometimes in the beginning stage of RISE, as educators and students are exploring natural hazards, there's this hurdle to get over, right? Sometimes that beginning space is just rough. It's like, I don't really know. Like, you look outside and you're like, well, everything looks fine. It's a sunny day. I don't so it's really hard to know the kind of like natural hazards that your community has faced. And especially in this time of COVID, like, normally in EarthForce, we say, let students figure out the issues, involve them in the research process, all of this, but we realize that this is a really hard time. So if it is that in this time, we have to give them a little nudge and say, hey, here's some of the big flooding issues in your community right now, look at these, and decide, like, not here are the solutions, but here are some of those issues, that might be a big help too, so.
Yep. We've got lots of, our tools that we use all the time are conducive to launching that, and they're available to anyone that wants to participate in this. We'll do everything we can to get those tools farmed out, if they're not local, but we're pretty well spread. What other questions do you folks have? I don't want to just.
Yeah, we can wrap up whenever, but we're also happy to answer questions. Thank you, Greg, for that information.
Quick question on the summit. So you said that's next April, right? Is the plan to be I guess at this point, kind of have to plan for virtual. So what kind of commitment, or what do you need as far as volunteers? Would it just be coming on for a few hours to, like, I guess, how does that work? Are they going to present virtually, or want to talk about that?
Good question. So EarthForce, EEAI, and FEMA will kind of all be tag teaming to kind of host and lead the summit. EarthForce has obviously done this before, so we'll be leaning on their expertise to kind of guide the formation of that. FEMA will be doing a presentation for the students and the educators that attend to kind of just to really show some of the other programs and services and resources that they offer. So we will have like a little educational component to it, but then it will just be presentations from students. They will be presenting their proposals proposals and their projects, their solutions, kind of their whole process in some sort of oral presentation format. It is April 28th. We're looking at kind of that late afternoon, early evening timeframes, like a 3 to 6 sort of window to host the whole summit of all of the student presentations. And again, what we're hoping for from that is, one, just having attendance, right? We would love to have experts in this area, esteemed colleagues to attend, because we want adults to be watching these students give these presentations. We want them to see that this is real and has validity, and take it seriously. So just showing up and attending is kind of that first step of really supporting this work. And then one step further would be to serve as a judge for those presentations, either the written ones before the summit or judging those oral presentations at the summit. And there is money at stake here. You all know that your national foundation has offered us the funds for the prize money. So the team that comes in first, I think it's like the first 5 teams actually get a cash prize to take back to their school, their classroom, or their organization to be able to help again with implementation or further understanding, further learning on their issue. So serving in some kind of capacity as a judge, again, for either the pre-summit proposals or the oral presentations would be a really big help.
Awesome. And Brian, I was just thinking, and we could talk about this more offline, but since our conference, IFSM conference, is going to be in early March, maybe there's some way we can advertise that particular event, because that's still plenty of time for people to figure out, get involved, and even encourage people just to log in for a few hours. If it's later in the day, maybe it's a little bit easier. So we can talk with you guys about how to do that and what would make sense.
Was there discussion, Adam? I missed our last board meeting where we were finalizing our conference slate. Did we discuss having a section on the RISE challenge?
I don't think we put it in as a abstract or anything. We might be able to have and we're still figuring out how we're going to get vendors and sponsors and all of that. So maybe you guys could be a invited vendor or something and have a
I'll talk to Steve and see where we'll fit it in. It may be if we're doing plenaries, all group things, we might work it into something like that with an appeal to, whatever other volunteer opportunities are available to people at that time, to get them plugged in. Because I can see people getting plugged in to especially judging the presentation at a later date.
I think there may be some spaces still available. I mean, we went through all the abstracts, but I think there are still a few we're trying to fill. So maybe there's somewhere we can fit it in, or if not, at least include it somewhere, either in the some type of documentation that we provide. Obviously, this can all look different since this will be our first virtual conference. So we're not quite sure what's going on, and
you and all of us.
So how the social event's going to look, or how we don't quite know. Not sure how the vendors are going to be set up. So that could be a time. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, we've worked with FEMA, and FEMA has had a few virtual RISE presentations in Region 8. And so we had a booth of sorts, and so we could definitely do something like that. If you want to discuss that more, we'd be happy to chat. You could reach out, and maybe we can loop in some Region 8 folks and kind of get an idea of what they've been doing. But honestly, even just the awareness of it and having people come, I know for a lot of people, it's I'm not ready to dive in because I want to get to know what this is all about. So attending this year's summit would be a great opportunity to just hear from students, hear about the RISE Challenge, hear what they're doing, and just get a sense of what it is. So at a minimum, that would be awesome. Just be there, be a part of listening and sharing.
That raises a great question. Is this just for 2021 or is it going on into the future?
Good question. Turn that over to Katie.
It's one of those things that's just, all of everything, there's a lot of question marks. The idea is that this goes into the future, but as we all know, it's just a challenging time, and there's a lot of FEMA changes and things like that. So we are confident in what we're doing. We're continuing full steam ahead, and we are hopeful that everything we do will result in continued funding
So
for the Rise
I
Challenge
know the
Illinois.
I know it's a follow-up question for Katie. Katie, what are the FEMA metrics to encourage?
Yeah, so we got to hit those
encourage more funding.
deliverables, right? We got to get
Right,
the
what are they?
educators. Yep, we
What
got
do
to
we gotta
get the
see?
educators involved and get enough proposals submitted. You know, it's like doing any kind of program, a brand new partnership, a brand new funding situation. We have to prove that this is of interest in Illinois and that there's passion and excitement around this topic. I'm feeling it. I get, you know, interest from educators all the time, but it's that next level. It's getting them to actually submit a proposal, get their students invested in this topic, and get to the summit. So the more, you know, the more events like this, the more word spreading that we can do, the more excitement and passion we can build behind it, the more I have to go to those FEMA folks and be like, listen, we are worth every penny. Stick with us here in Illinois. We love you and we want you.
Katie, do you want to add anything, or?
Yep, Abby nailed it. I think anything that shows that we're meeting our objectives of promoting resilience and mitigation is going to help make the case for continuing the program.
So FEMA is going to be judging the presentations too. It's really
Different rubric.
Yeah.
What other questions do people have? This is a good opportunity to get your questions answered. So
I have a few questions. So what's the state's engagement or like involvement in this? Have they been like engaged at all? Like IEMA or IDNR?
IEMA has not been yet. IDNR is, yes. Paul has been very, very involved. In fact, was instrumental in the initial introductions and also coming up with good ideas about collaborative projects. The whole board, the IAFSM board, which represents a lot of different areas, Steve and others from IDNR. So individually, as individuals on the board, we're all very much supportive of the whole venture. Are you thinking more programmatically?
I was thinking more like committed contribution or like committed support, not, so I guess not just engagement, but like how have they committed to engage or support this in any way? Like I'm just thinking IDNR, you know, they have if we're talking about flooding, you know, the Urban Flood Awareness Act. And I know that I've reached out to Paul about, hey, give me an update. I'd like to know, you know, what IDNR has done, like any progress on some of those recommendations. So I know they already have really good recommendations outlined for urban flooding for Chicago. So that could even be something that the students review as far as like interactive policy,
Exactly.
Or like, you know, things like that. And then taking it a step further to see what has been implemented, what not. But I think that would be something that IDNR could contribute. And I know Marilyn is very, you know, she's always willing to help, at least every time I've asked. So I can't imagine her not wanting to. And then IEMA, just thinking, I mean, we're talking disasters and they're the ones that receive the funding and manage the grants. So it just seems like they should be involved.
This kind of follows up. You're right, and I think that's exactly the kind of thinking that we need to apply to our involvement with Rise Challenge. You know, that's exactly what we need to do. We know these things in the background, and so as the kids, it's student-led, so you don't know where it's going to go, but that's because it's student-led is more effective.
Well, and I think that to kind of follow up on Lorena's comment, the process and the government aspects of it and the backdrop of everything that we need to do from a bureaucratic standpoint, it's such a complex thing to navigate that there are people in our industry that don't have a good handle on how to navigate it, let alone lay people or students that are just getting introduced to it for the first time.
Right.
And so I think that from our perspective, we need to try to help them navigate those waters on the front end so that we can take away some of the barriers to let their creativity go someplace that it can actually be beneficial.
Or
Well
help them
said.
at least consider that those are the things that are going to be difficult. That kind of, I mean, the hardest question, I think the elephant in the room is exactly that. We as professionals struggle to make an impact in this field that we've been working in for 30 years. You know, it's a difficult lift. We don't get time of day from elected officials. How can kids do this?
It's kind of incredible, actually, that they do it often more effectively than we do because they're working outside of the same standards and systems and such. And so one key piece, though, is that oftentimes these are small mitigation projects or small local projects. So they're making changes on their school grounds or in their local community or something that's like small enough that they feel like they get the experience, but still doable. Tony Mendez in Region 8 has made it very clear that he would love to see some bigger projects. And so we're happy to continue to not, you know, we don't want to cap students and say you can't take on these bigger projects. But I will say I've seen students do amazing things, and it's not a RISE challenge, but we had students through EarthForce that in Virginia worked for 2 years to change indoor air legislation for Virginia because they found mushrooms in their classroom. That's how it started. They used the EarthForce process with their educators, been doing it 10 years. They were so committed to this, they started an after school program to keep it going after they finished her class. And just recently, like 6 months ago, they were able to put through this major change. And what's fascinating is when young people speak in front of legislature, they are heard. They don't realize how powerful their voice is until they're up there. So it's really, I think that is the elephant in the room, but I think they can have experiences from everything like a small impact to, if they have a really big project and they have done their research and they know that it's a good idea, they have a powerful voice. So there's a range.
Yeah, thanks.
And just to circle back real quick on Lorena's kind of name dropping and organizations and stuff. So that's another piece that we really need your help with. You know, we've got this interest form and we would love for all of you to step up and be volunteers or to help recruit volunteers, but also just telling us who we don't know that should be involved is an excellent way that you can support this program. I'm constantly, you know, adding names and organizations and, oh, here's this resource to my database of information and trying to compile it in an organized fashion so that, you know, we can have a really good bank of resources and contacts and information for our educators to go to. Because from EEAI standpoint, we really are hoping this is a long-term project, a long-term program that we can maintain here in Illinois. And so growing that database of, you know, oh, Maryland with, you know, this organization is really invested in a great resource if your project relates to X, Y, or Z, or IEMA is this organization and here's the local contact, you know, whatever it is, but it's putting all of those names and faces and organizations into context for us, or for me really, because I'm not a flood expert. So any help you can provide for all those folks would be really great for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's something we can really do. I mean, each of us that's listening here, we know we've got our contacts, and we can talk to other people, be recruiting others that say, hey, this cool thing's happening.
Yeah, and certainly if we get others involved, like those folks you mentioned, Lorena, like I think FEMA would be much more likely to engage in the future with this if there's co-partners in it, right? If there's like a lot of us coming together around this like idea to solve issues around natural hazards, particularly flooding and flood mitigation stuff, I think they would be like, ooh, great. It's not just, you know, it's not just us and EarthForce, EEAI, like we've got other partners and stuff. So I think there's opportunity to bring in those groups and help, provide some structure.
We talked in the past about organizational expansion, mm-hmm. and we thought maybe that was a little quick, if I remember right, or that there are certain pitfalls at least to that. I mean, there's pitfalls in having engineers involved in any kind of education thing. You might want to talk about those just a little bit, just a little.
Yeah. I mean, in that case, we talk about like trying to prep our stakeholders in any instance, whatever stakeholders students are working with, like Abby mentioned, they're coming in not to give answers, but to help students and educators understand these things more. So it's really on us to make sure that they are well prepped and that it's framed for them clearly, that this is student-led work. We really want students to be at the helm. This isn't like coming in and telling folks what to do. So that's on, I would say, EEAI and EarthForce together to be able to kind of frame the support of those, or like the stakeholder engagement of engineers and such. And in terms of like the wide ranging that you mentioned first and the kind of issues with that, I just, as program manager of RISE, trying to manage it going in like 3 different directions, I just have to make sure that our folks at the top, Katie, all of our FEMA friends, our Region 5 folks, our Region 8 folks, like those at the very top are comfortable with the kind of directions and things that are coming up. So if you come through us though and have ideas and want to connect us and stuff, that's great. And then I just talk to them about like how the big picture of all this, like if we were like, oh, this group that Lorena mentioned wants to get involved and they want to get involved in this way, I just have to like make sure to take it up the flagpole and see, make sure, you know, so that's kind of the big, like when you have something like this that's multi-armed and complex, it sometimes takes a little bit of figuring out. So hopefully that answers those 2 aspects, Brian.
Cool. Well, I think we probably better be wrapping up. Go ahead, Greg. Greg, did you have something there?
I did have something just really quick. There are some concepts along with a lot of these, you know, technical aspects. One of the biggest ones that FEMA looks at is benefit cost. Is that going to be something that's part of the program?
Katie, do you want to say anything about that?
I don't know if I've seen in looking at any of the projects from Colorado on the website, I don't know if I've seen any like detailed benefit cost analysis. I mean, they tend to be the kinds of projects that are pretty low cost, high impact, because they're really like small scale targeted things. And a lot of them are focused on community education. We could certainly come up with a way to introduce the concept to kids, but like certainly not like with the FEMA benefit cost analysis tool that you see for hazard mitigation projects.
Yeah. I mean, more just as a concept, I mean, so many communities try to implement flood mitigation programs that are just so lopsided on their benefit costs that it's just not conscionable to spend that kind of money. And some communities end up spending it anyway. So
Right.
Yeah, one thing that kind of safeguards against that is I think the prize money is like $500. So they really do have to be efficient with, unless they're like somehow getting from other sources. But yeah, I could definitely see how like just introducing that concept overall is important early on as kids are learning to become civically engaged.
Lorena, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, kind of along those lines. I was actually going to ask about the curriculum, like what does that look like? But I can also just talk offline with someone to talk through a little bit more of this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I would strongly encourage any and all of you that are interested in that point to dig around on earthforce.org. Their 6-step process is one of the hands down best processes we've seen in project-based learning to really engage students in that democratic issue investigation process. And there's an extensive amount of tools and resources and services that EarthForce provides to educators that go through their process. And EEAI will be offering those workshops as well, in person or virtual, to support the educators that go through RISE Challenge. We hosted one earlier in the fall, and we'll be moving up the timeline and probably hosting another one May and then over the summer for educators that want to be involved for next year.
Do you envision an outside experts training session?
I haven't thought about that, but it's a great idea. I just want to tell everyone else thank you for coming. If you need to bounce off, contact us. I'm happy to stay a few minutes to answer these remaining questions. But thank you all for the time and space to be here.
Yes, good to see everybody.
I love that idea, Brian, and I think that would be, if we get a lot of experts together, that would be really valuable to kind of help them get a sense. And just Lorena, quickly to your point, EarthForce is really a process that doesn't contain a lot of content either. So our process is plugged into many different types of work. And so the curriculum piece will come more from educators getting to their standards and stuff, like what do they need to teach about natural hazards, or from like stakeholder engagement and such too. So I will say that there is room for that upfront curriculum building of helping young people understand the issues in their local communities around these natural hazards. So that is something that we're interested in sort of working on as well.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Just good to see a good group here. At least we weren't complete. We didn't outnumber you. Adam, did we record this?
Yes, so I've recorded this. We can put it on our website, and Brian, we can figure out where we want to put it. And our thought was that we can send out an email to our distribution list, just kind of summarizing how they get involved, and to reach out to Abby and Alyssa if they have questions, and
especially putting that volunteer interest form link in there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I think that was
Thank you so much.
But we'll make sure to get that out. Oh yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. We appreciate your time, and this is really exciting. Hopefully we get some good interest.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And Lorena, if you have more questions, I really appreciate all of your great questions. Feel free to just reach out. We'd be happy to hop on a call or something, or a little face-to-face as well. So thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, Adam, for setting this up.
Oh, no problem. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.